One of the main attractions of Dark Souls 1 that keeps me coming back time and time again is the open and interconnected world From Software built for us to explore. One of my favorite parts of this game is discovering just how far I can go as soon as I leave the asylum, and this scope wouldn't be touched again until Elden Ring. This design lives in my head so much, it makes me wonder just how much you can do once you arrive in Lordran, and in this video, I'm going to show you all of the bosses you could theoretically fight as soon as you get to Firelink Shrine. We'll work our way from the simplest to the most complex. Let's start with all of the bosses From Software intended for you to potentially fight first. First up, we have the Taurus Demon, located in the Undead Burg. This is more than likely the first boss most players will encounter on their first playthrough, and is the easiest boss to access from the get-go. Not much need for explanation here other than going through the first intended area of the game. But if you didn't want to fight this boss, or deal with the Drake afterwards, you could skip this boss. All you need to do is start with the Master Key, and instead of going up to fight the Taurus Demon, unlock the door down where Havel is, and make your way to the Undead Parish, where you can fight the Gargoyles first if you so choose. This is likely the first major story-related boss players will encounter, and while it isn't the most challenging, it's still fun to make a dash for the first bell and Oswald right from the get-go if you'd so choose. However, if you got to Andre, but weren't ready for the Gargoyles, I could suggest heading the other way into the Darkroot Garden and taking on the Moonlight Butterfly. There isn't anything special about getting to this boss, it just requires you to be careful when actually fighting the boss because while it isn't the tankiest, it does deal some damage to low-level players. But if you summon Beatrice, it's a nice bounty of souls for the early game. The next part of the intended path would be the Capra Demon. Now normally I like to make my way down here via this jump that gets me here without going the normal way, but if you really want to do this with intended mechanics, all you would do is grab the basement key, head backwards towards the Drake Bridge and open the door, go on down and you're here. Capra isn't an easy fight considering you probably don't have a ton of poise, but without the dogs this fight isn't too much to talk about. After you've done all that, most players will find themselves in Blighttown. With our next boss, you could fight from the start, Quelaag. All you have to do is start with the Master Key and open up the door in the New Londo Ruins that leads to the Valley of Drakes, and make your way down the way From Software intended for you to use the escape area. And yeah, it's Quelaag, a boss that if you want to fight first, you really want a good weapon because she is beefy and will more than likely kill you quickly with her AoE and stab attacks. But killing her early will get this area out of the way, give you access to the other bell, and you have a soul that can give you a really good weapon once you get to Anor Londo. Alright, so imagine you leave the asylum and you miss Captivation so much you want to return immediately to cure your homesickness. Well, all you have to do is run all the way around the burg, unlock the shortcut, and become an egg. Note that you can get here from the start with some well-placed jumps without the elevator. Anyways, we skate around the Torch Hollows and next up, Stray Demon. Yeah, this boss is pretty rough if you wanted to fight him as your first boss, but I found that having a bleed weapon really closes the gap. You'll probably be annihilated in one hit, but you can get an early Titanite slab, which is always nice. Now let's say that you wanted to make a push for the Darkwraith Covenant ASAP, and let's also say you don't want to spend the souls to buy the crest of Artorias. No problem, just run on down where the Hydra is, take him out, and you're free to climb up the ladder and make your way to Seath without purchasing any pesky medallions. You could do the cheese if you wanted to, but Seath isn't too bad, again, especially with bleed weapons. Now I saved one of my favorites for last here. It's a strategy that I implement on many runs and it's always satisfying to me. We need to make our way to the catacombs, make sure you are human, and go through until we get to this ledge. Hop all the way down here and summon Leroy. He is the key to our success at such a low level. He will help take all of the bone wheels out, and once you get to the ledge where Pinwheel is, stand right here and wait for Leroy to stand next to you. Start walking into him and guide him to fall down. Once he is next to Pinwheel's spawn, just start the fight and... yeah, this wasn't much of a fight at all. However, if you fight Pinwheel first, you get 15,000 souls, a free stat boosting mask, and the ability to get 20 flasks right from the start, which can be really powerful in the early game. I would recommend anyone giving this a try if you want a good boost to your early game character. Alright, well that's it. That's every boss in Dark Souls 1 that you could fight first once you leave the asylum. Without glitches. Yeah, I'm sure most of you saw this coming, but if you're willing to use the glitches that makes Miyazaki tremble in his boots, you can fight several more bosses than you could normally. Let's begin with one of the more famous glitches in the game, Sin Skip. All you have to do is lodge yourself right here and repost a hollow. If you get this weird top-down camera, you need to navigate your way down the path to the gate, and once past it, quit out and you'll be inside Sin's Fortress. It is extremely important to note that you cannot set it a bonfire at any point past this gate, as you will be stuck and forced to get the Lord Vessel. Also, videos that explain all glitches will be in the description. Anyways, make your way up to the golem, and it doesn't matter if you want the help of Tarkus or hitting him off the edge. It requires a great deal of patience since he is extremely tanky and your hits won't do much. However, if you didn't want to fight the golem and still get access to Anor Londo, you could. All you have to do is perform this extremely random trick that involves you getting yeeted into the Anor Londo loading zone and performing a wrong warp to put you there. I did this in a previous run, so that's the footage I'm using because it's pretty much like the lottery in terms of actually getting it to work properly. Alright, so we're in Anor Londo. We have some options here. First and obvious, there's Ornancy and Smo. Just run all the way through and there should be no issues. Well, except the one of actually fighting the boss. This is one of the toughest fights, so if you aren't prepared, it could be bad. But at least you get the lore vessel if you win, which is always a plus. But if you didn't want to fight them just yet, might I suggest taking a vacation to the Snowland? Just make sure you grab the doll first, and you can make it to Priscilla and execute this abomination as your first boss if you really wanted to. It can be nice to get a tail weapon or some of the nicer gear in this area anyways. But if you didn't want to do either of those things, just fight Gwyndolin instead. Either grab the Dark Moon Seance Ring first, and then make your way here, or just quit out on the statue and it'll disappear, allowing a rather easy, if not lengthened fight. Good armor is back here though. We'll be back to Anor Londo later, but first, let's head back to the Burg for the next boss. We can actually fight the Gaping Dragon first, despite the fact you need to kill the Capra Demon to get the key. All we need to do is to get into meme roll range and do the following steps. Get past this piece of rubble, roll down here, then roll down here, follow this path, open this door, and you're in. Just don't die. While the Gaping Dragon doesn't pose a huge threat, he still hits hard, and for a beginning character, it'll take a while due to his high health and defense. And kill the Channeler, otherwise it'll be even more annoying. Anyways, we're back in Blighttown, and we're actually going to skip past Quelaag. First, you need to trigger her boss fight at least one time. Then, you need to backtrack all the way back Blighttown, up these ladders until you find these ponts. Break them and slowly inch your way until you get a camera that resembles the Sin's Fortress skip. It's the same idea, and all you need to do is drop down the platforms, make your way back through the swamp and into Quelaag's domain. This can be rather difficult to understand what exactly is going on, so I'm putting a reference video so it's easier to comprehend. Essentially, we're going to go through the fog door on the other side, and if you're in need of some help, go online and put down a message and use that for reference. However, you cannot quit out until you get to the staircase past the bell room, as doing so will make the game still think you're in the boss fight. But if you do get to the right place, you can quit out and you'll be behind Quelaag, and just like before, do not sit at any bonfire or you will be trapped forever. Alright, so let's head to the Demon Ruins, and if you really wanted to, you can fight Sleeceless first. Yeah, that's not very difficult, so let's go to the next and final boss of this area. First, we need to perform Ceaseless Skip. This can be done by first using a bow and arrow to draw this Capra Demon off the ledge so he doesn't bother us. Next, walk down this slope and spam roll so you can get to this safe spot here. I'm going to speed up this part so you can see it's possible, but I'll leave a tutorial in the description. Finally, we have, at least in my opinion, one of the most difficult glitches, at least to me. First, we need to spawn in right behind this worm. You also need a medium shield in your right hand. Remember how the Iron Golem skip works? It's kind of like that, but not nearly as RNG heavy. Dodge every attack, but the exact millisecond you see him go for the grab, attack with the shield, and if done right, you will be clipped through the ground and you'll land on an invisible ledge. Note that if you are too late with the attack, you will still clip through but die due to fall damage. Anyways, after you're here, just heal up and drop down, and once you're ready to fight, head to the fog wall and the fight will begin. Useful if you want to get the orange charred ring early. So let's get back to talking about Anor Londo. We can actually glitch ourselves into the archives, but remember the Sins and Quelaag skip? It's like that, but we have a time limit this time. However, we need both fall control and the lingering Dragon Crest ring. First, quit out near the bonfire, and when loading back in, everything timing-wise begins. Get into meme roll range and cast fall control right at the ledge here, and begin rolling down. Once at the bottom, book it back up the staircase, and if your timing is right, you'll make it onto the elevator as it begins to go back up. Go ahead and strip yourself of everything so you can run faster, and once back up, the race begins. You need to make your way as if you were going to the Duke's Archives, which can be a trick since the camera here doesn't allow us to get a good view of where we are. But with some patience and memorization, we can make it to where the Golden Gate would be, and if you begin falling, that means you're safe. Quit out, and upon loading back in, you'll be in the archives. Just don't set any bonfires, remember? And if you're wondering why we were on a time limit, just know that fall control was keeping us from dying from fall damage the entire time, because the game was trying to apply that fall damage we should have taken from the giant drop, but it couldn't. So when fall control runs out, we die. Okay, so make your way up the archives, and we're going to need to skip past the prison section. There's actually a much easier way to do so now. Just lodge yourself between this pillar and railing, lock onto this guy, and roll to the right and quit out immediately. If your timing is right, you'll end up in this weird position. Just run and jump, and then we're going to need to cast fall control, jump in this direction, and quit out when we hit the ground. Upon loading in, we are in the archives proper, and at this point you can head straight to Seath and struggle with his tail if you so choose. Okay, so we have one more. Probably one of the crazier ones in my opinion. So first you need to have killed the Hydra and freed Dusk of Woolaseel. Then, go ahead and do everything to get back to the archives and get the broken pendant. If you do all this, you can actually enter the DLC if you really wanted. And if you really wanted, you could fight the Sanctuary Guardian as your first boss. However, be careful because if you rest at a bonfire here, you are permanently stuck in the DLC without the ability to warp away. So discretion is advised. And that's it. We have finally gone through every boss you can fight first after leaving the asylum. In the remastered version. That's right, I have one more to showcase, but we're gonna need to go back home, where it all started. The Prepare to Die edition. Oh wow, it's been a while. Also, it's important to note that this only works on the PC version of the game, so if you don't have it already, unfortunately it's been taken off Steam. But thankfully I have it so I can showcase this to you. It is also important to note this only works with 30 FPS, so if you have DS Fix, go ahead and change the settings now to properly do this. And finally, we need a big weapon, like the Spyhander, Great Club, or Dragon Tooth. We start by standing around here and continuously quitting out. Each quit out moves us further and further back until this elevator floor starts clipping a bit. Eventually, we will start free falling. At this rate, there's nothing that can save us. The fall is too great to survive, and even if we could use fall control, the ground down here is considered a boss area, so we couldn't stay down here even with a quit out. But wait, this is a boss room, right? Words won't do this one justice, so let's watch. I'm Mr. Metagross. Thanks for watching.